You are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the October 25th Economic Growth and Development Committee meeting. To start the meeting off, I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Supervisor McDevitt for first. Supervisor McGowan for the second. Any corrections, additions, modifications? Being none, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That carries. Moving forward on the agenda, I'm going to move over to Sarah and our planning group. Sarah, we're going to talk about the first three items on the list, and then we'll talk about the fourth from the chair here. So,
Okay,
Sarah, feel free.
so our first item is an update of the county's fair housing policy. It is a requirement that the county has a fair housing policy to receive CDBG funding. Our last version of the policy was from 1991. And it's time to update the policy just to make sure we're in compliance with all the latest rules and regulations. So Patricia Tadich in our office, I'm not sure if she joined us via Zoom, wrote a draft policy update, which is attached. Nothing too out of the ordinary or earth shattering in here, basically just making sure we're complying with all of the fair housing rules and regulations at the federal level. And so that is our request, is to adopt that fair housing policy. Obviously, we'll send it to the county attorney's office for review.
McGowan, you got to bring a motion to bring this to the floor? All right, there's a first. Do we have a second? Supervisor Stroud, thank you. Any questions, discussion? Bradley? McGowan, Supervisor McGowan.
No, I'm good. I was just egging on Mr. Leggett here.
Seeing no questions or comments, I'll raise the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carried. On to number two, please, Sarah.
Okay, item number 2 is just to transfer $3,000 from our part-time salary budget to overtime. There's no budget impact. We're just moving money from one salary code to another. This is to provide overtime pay for our office specialists to attend meetings after work hours.
Motion by Mr. Strauss, Supervisor Strauss, second. Supervisor McGowan, any comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None. That carries also. On to number 3, Sarah, please.
Okay, so number 3 is to enter into a contract with Labella to create our countywide comprehensive plan. We put out an RFP for this earlier in the year. We got 2 responses. We had a review committee. Labella was chosen as being the best response to the RFP. So this is to enter into a contract with them to perform the countywide comprehensive.
Thank you by Supervisor Leggett, second by Supervisor Stroud. Any comments, questions? Supervisor McGowan.
Oh, yes. How many RFPs came back?
We got 2 responses.
And was the other one local too?
Supervisor Leggett was on the review committee, so if he'd like to speak to that.
Yes, fairly local as well. And they were both great proposals. We were lucky to get the responses we did for this RFP. And they were both close in price on the services provided. Labella had for shorthand, just a deeper bench on being able to roll this out for countywide.
No, and I think Labella works for a lot of the towns around us too. So,
And has done significant work within the county, so they have
the knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries also. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add? Before we start talking about number 4 and the referral items down below?
Nope, number 4 and the referral item are related. I know Ethan wanted to have a little bit of update on the restore grant opportunities. So I don't know if we want to jump ahead to that and come back to the solar. Either way is fine.
Let's take advantage of the Restore Grant opportunity first, and we'll talk about that, Ethan, if you're prepared, let's.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention here that earlier this year, there was a Restore New York program announced by the state. Basically, it allows for municipalities, whether it's the county, local, or village government, to take advantage of up to 90% matching to restore vacant or underutilized property. What needs to happen in order for this program to work is that the municipality needs to either control the site or be willing to work with the property owner to identify it, prioritize it, send a letter of interest into the state, and then if that letter of interest is successful, to proceed forward with developing ideas for the site. So just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. So if we do have any sort of white elephant properties that we think would be able to revitalize an area, whether it's high needs neighborhood or a place that has lots of commercial development potential, except this one property is holding it back, this could be a good opportunity. So think about that. Empire State Development will be releasing another round of funding for this soon.
Yeah, Ethan, do you know what the timing is for soon? Is it the next?
No, I spoke with Empire State Development representatives last week, and they just mentioned that they're going to continue this on a rolling basis, and that it will vary within the next few weeks. They'll have the solicitation for letters of interest
I'm
out.
going to ask one other thing. Could you please send it out to all the town supervisors? So
Yeah.
that they're all aware of this.
Yep.
And I'll open up to the committee. Anyone have any questions for Ethan regarding this? Any concerns? Go ahead,
Oh.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if the planning department has the capacity to help any of the towns or county with applications.
That will be up to Wayne and Sarah and Ethan to determine about what their bandwidth is to be able to help with applications. I would guess that they're going to do their best to support. But there is a concern that the number of tasks that are starting to pile up in the planning department is becoming at least a concern on my part. I'm not necessarily overly concerned, but I am watching it a little bit, and hopefully we don't get ourselves overcommitted where we can't address what needs to be done. So I don't know if Sarah or Ethan, you can add any more to that.
To that point, we've been playing man down between paternity leave, and Wayne had some medical issues that's left him in absence, and hopefully after the start of November, we might be able to start soliciting for a new position, and send out a call for applicants. So hopefully it'd be nice to get another warm body in there. But any of these new grant opportunities that are out there, we think it's worth exploring, just because if it's new to the county, it's new to us. We'd like to get familiar with it and talk to the agency. So we'll do our best to at least get a compelling application in for a lot of this stuff, but we certainly will be monitoring our capacity. We've been a little too successful with our grants, so it's ended up starting up with a bunch of new projects. What's happening? I mean, we're about to kick off the outdoor recreation economy strategic plan with Empire State Development. The comprehensive plan itself will probably kick off early winter, spring, and that'll take a bit of staff time just to oversee the consultants and make sure everything's running smoothly. And then we also have this Northern Borders Regional Commission multi-use trail modernization connectivity study, which is going to, again, all this paperwork is coming in right now, and we're getting our grant agreement set up. So we'll be busy, but we're always looking for new opportunities.
Any other questions? I do have one more. Any outlook in terms of new grants that might be coming down the pipeline that we need to possibly be prepared for also?
The consolidated funding applications, those are announced in May. So every year we'd like to submit a few of those, whether it's on behalf of the county or some of our municipalities. I've been working with Town of Lake George, Town of Warrensburg, and a little bit with Supervisor Leggett's associates at the Northern Forest Center to look at this New York Forward program, the mini DRI. We did submit some applications this year, and we're developing new ones for communities. That's got a lot of potential. We're not going to know how far in earnest we need to resubmit applications until later this year, though. But that's another thing we want to keep on our watch, the New York Forward program. CFAs in the spring, and this Restore New York thing. Those are the big ones on the radar right now.
And between you and Sarah, have we provided an update on the current projects that we have going on? Did we do that, or we just kind of browse through it?
I think Ethan has, Ethan's talked about most of your stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
generally, we're aquatic invasive species in the Scroon Lake Basin. That's moving forward. We're closing out a 2018 grant. We have a new one coming up. We're working, Martin Fitzgerald and Gina Martin are doing a great job with the septic program. We got an additional over $600,000 of funding for that. We can address some of the backlog of applications. We're pretty tied up administering ARPA. Additionally, in the background, we're still doing climate smart communities programs, energy audit for this building. And we've re-engaged with the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, and they're offering technical support for just doing an inventory of some of our emissions in the county. And they provide us with a lot of extra capacity through their staff time.
Thank you, Sarah. Any addition?
So major projects for Amanda and I, we are just in the very beginning stages of supporting the 250th Revolutionary War project. So we're working on getting a website designed, and we'll be continuing to meet with that committee as we move forward to prepare for that big event. We're also just starting the new round of our collaboration with Cliff and Redfield Interactive, so that have a big kickoff this month. We've engaged lots of interested parties, and we're working on recruiting students. We have a couple recruited now, and we'll be looking for more for the spring semester. So that'll be ramping up again. We're continuing to support DPW and Parks and Rec as they slowly start transitioning to using GIS. And doing some work for the Sheriff's Department to support better public access to some of the Sheriff Department information. So that's our main.
Hazard mitigation plan.
Oh yeah, and the hazard mitigation plan that'll be kicking off this week. So we'll be serving on that committee. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So moving forward, there was a referral a number of months ago about the solar tax credits. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, that there's a local law proposed on number 4 on the agenda. I don't believe myself personally that we're really ready to understand all of that. One of the things I did when the referral was first brought up over to this committee was I reached out to a number of individuals to help me figure out what the economic benefits and drawbacks of providing tax breaks for solar in Warren County. The results of that was that the IDA has a new executive leader, Chuck Barton. Chuck has been tasked with trying to identify what the policy for the IDA is for tax breaks for solar projects. So I've requested that Chuck keep us in the loop in terms of what the IDA is moving forward with. And my recommendation is to wait to see what comes out of that recommendation and see if we agree or would like to make some modifications to that before it's implemented at the IDA. So that was my impression. I'm going to open it up to anybody on the committee or other supervisors who think we should do something differently. Supervisor Starr.
I mean, I
Go ahead.
what is the question?
Well, the question is, do we want to move forward with a local law to disallow any tax credits for solar installations?
You mean?
We can opt out the ability to
Anybody
have-
can opt out at 487. 487 is an exemption of the superstructure, that which is above the land. As best portrayed as told to me by Terry Ross, our assessor, and people from all around the state call her on this matter. It doesn't prohibit you from getting a pilot program
in lieu of, you always have that opportunity, and matter of fact, that's become pretty much the standardized mode. Now, the only one that's opted out of 487, which is the automatic exemption, is Queensbury School, at least in the town of Queensbury. So, I still don't understand the question.
So we have the ability, I'm gonna try one
We
more
being
time.
the
and-
County.
Pardon me? For
We being
the county has the ability to opt in or opt out,
You're automatically in.
you're automatically in.
Do you want to opt out?
That's the question. Do we want to opt out? That was the underlying question,
Yeah,
of
well,
course.
what's
Thank
the
you for helping with that.
advantage?
That's what I'm trying to find out. What's the advantage of opting, staying in, or the benefits of opting out, or the drawbacks of opting out? And some are financial, some are economic, some are environmental.
Well, if I may still have the floor,
You may, please do.
it to me is kind of moot. Because what we're ending up doing is pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. Anyways. So. If pilot is the way of the day, it really has little to do with the opt-in or opted out, because if you agree to a pilot, you're fine. If you don't opt out of 487, then you, I guess you could argue that you could do the full tax. Or whatever the county would have done after the amended value of the property to the superstructure, being the solar field is upon it. There's a certain gain in value of the superstructure, and there's a certain gain in value of the property underneath it. Now, the 487 doesn't exempt the potential increase in value of the property underneath the superstructure. 487 applies to the structure itself. Anyway, for whatever it's worth.
So this isn't even worth looking into?
I'd say
I'm
so.
trying to understand. Supervisor Leggett, and Lexi, I see you back there raising your hand. You can go to the, after Supervisor Leggett, you can jump up to the podium and
Okay,
help us.
I'm going to attempt for clarity here. With the 487, a solar farm can come in and be exempt from any taxation on what's called the superstructure. And we, as a county, can opt out of that, let's use that language, and say, no, you need to pay tax on that. And we, somewhere along the lines, you had mentioned the IDA, for example, could enter into agreement where there is a payment in lieu of taxes, so as to make such an operation commercially viable, because these are very valuable installations worth millions of dollars. So tax breaks are sometimes needed in order to make them a viable commercial operation. Is that correct? Is there anything incorrect? Or just state?
If I were to just add one more thing, there's a lot of state and federal incentives to also help make this commercially viable. So the question is, do we want to, as a county, and at least in my mind, jump in and also provide additional incentives to allow this to happen in Warren County? I myself, I don't understand what the benefit would be of doing that. We don't have a ton of land, at least in my mind. You get up in the Adirondack Park, it becomes even more difficult to do. So Queensbury has some land. You know, I will defer to Supervisor Stroud on that, but I'm wondering how we do this. And Ethan and I had a conversation this morning about brownfields might be a great opportunity for allowing this or some other unused property. So it becomes pretty complicated to try to say, how do we do this and try to not provide this additional tax incentive to solar and other installations like that. So to me, it's just more questions versus answers that I have right now. Supervisor McDavid.
let me take a more global approach to the issue at hand here. The world, never mind the country, and never mind the state of New York, is concerned in taking proactive measures to ensure that we address the issue of global warming. That means we have to do everything possible to encourage, not discourage, solar, wind, and those kind of products and industries that are hoping to solve a potentially serious problem. The message that I see with this resolution as proposed kind of has the potential of painting Warren County as not believing in what the scientists are saying in terms of what's happening to our world and to our earth. The earth is getting warmer, okay? Statistically, that can be proven. That's a problem. So what does Warren County do? Do we take a resolution and basically, frankly, paints us and puts us into being totally contrary to what the scientists and the experts are all saying? I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a mistake. If we should do nothing, okay, just kind of let the industry and the world and our community kind of evolve as it goes along, and let our towns and villages kind of solve the problem.
Thank you. Anyone else? Supervisor Stroud?
Just to let you know, we have five megawatt projects in the town of Queensbury right now. One is the brownfield, where they're going to do a ballast type solar system, because it is a brownfield, but it's the ideal thing for that particular parcel. And southern exposure, it's full exposure. There's no trees and such. And there's nothing that would be next to it to block the solar capabilities, because the Hudson River's right there, and that's the old Sibagagi, now BASF brownfields. In addition to that, we have three over by the airport. If you include the one that is by the Quaker Road Walmart, done by Forest Enterprises as part of the airport, and then there is another one being proposed and on French Mountain. And by the way, that makes six. There's another one being proposed for the Finch landfill. So that'd be six. So we never opted out of 487. But Queensbury School did opt out of 487, and it kills the project for Glens Falls. The city of Glens Falls was trying for a solar project on some of their watershed property that really wasn't watershed property, and they didn't really need it, could be developed. And so they wanted to put a solar field there and gain the income from doing so. And then Queensbury School opted out, which made it not cost effective, and Solar City backed out.
Supervisor Leggett?
Thank you. If we look on page 4 or 5 of the real property tax law, subsection 487, here, 9A, the county that has not acted to remove the exemption under this section may require the owner of a property, which includes a solar system, to enter into a contract for payment in lieu of taxes. Such contract may require annual payments not to exceed the amount which would otherwise be payable before the exemption under this section. So if I'm reading 487 correctly, the way it is right now, somebody could apply for an exemption, but we could also require a pilot.
Supervisor Bramer? Breaking the rules, but I would
I know,
break
but
the rules
if I
like
just
this.
sit over here and be member of the public for just a second. I'm having trouble figuring out where this came from too, but I remembered, as you were saying this, my colleague from Chester, that we had a resolution come from the county attorney's office through personnel, which is his oversight committee, about a pilot agreement. Someone asked us to enter into a pilot agreement. So it came to that committee because there is built into the law that if we are notified of a project, we can say, hey, wait a second, we don't want you to have full exemption. We want you to get a pilot instead. And so the idea was, well, maybe we should just completely opt out so that every time we will have the option to do the pilot. However, in my opinion, we have the option every time now, so long as we respond to the notice as soon as we get it, which we did in this instance. And I think it's more of a detriment for us to opt out across the board due to the environmental concerns, like was brought up by my colleague from Glens Falls, as well as my colleague from Queensbury, who said about the economic impacts and the redevelopment of brownfield. So I think that we should just leave it alone. When projects come to us, we can ask for a pilot on an individual project by project basis.
Any other supervisors? Lexi, if you have something you'd like to add, or are we on the right track?
You are,
You could come to the podium, please. Thank you.
you are, but if you don't opt out, they can still, or if you stay in, they're going to get an exemption. They can apply for an exemption through the town assessor's office and get an exemption on their solar project. So as long as you stay the way you are, then they'll continue to be able to get those exemptions on their solar projects. That's all.
But like Claudia and I have both said, the option for the pilot remains. And like Claudia said, or Supervisor Bramer, you do have 60 days to respond to the notice. If you're interested in doing a pilot, you have 60 days to do so.
So I know that the IDA is considering whether they want to even offer pilots for solar programs. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Supervisor Leggett is also on
That's
that
right.
board.
We've
So
been
we're looking
approached.
at it.
Yeah.
So the IDA could eventually say no. Because there's a lot of farmland that might be potential for solar in Washington County, but they may not want that happening in Washington County. I don't know, that's up to them.
Again,
So
it doesn't have to go through the IDA. A pilot can be established by the municipalities themselves in their conversations with the potential solar.
So if I'm not mistaken, 487 or 478, which one is it? But
487.
487 is basically something that if they apply for it, they get it. It's not a question about whether it could be denied. That's true.
I believe, yes.
Right, so that's part of what I'm talking about, I believe, is do we want that to be something that automatically happens in Warren County? Or do we want it to go through some kind of review process for each and every single project?
Can I ask a question?
Actually, please do.
Okay, so this particular one I was made aware of because it came through the county administrator's office and they weren't sure where it went to. And I stated that it needed to start with the county attorney's office. I'm just curious. Because the one that I'm speaking of was the letter that was giving us that 60-day notice. How many others of these have actually come to the county for notification of a solar project? Do we have any idea of that? Because that's the only one that I've seen. And I know Supervisor Strauss is talking about multiple projects here in the town of Queensbury, but were any of those broached to the county ahead of time so that the county could be involved in that? It's just a question because, you know, that's something that we need to consider because you just mentioned, well, then the county can be involved if they have that 60-day notice, but I'm not sure if any of these projects ever gave the county those 60-day notices. because they went through a pilot.
Supervisor Stroud.
Well, the way I understand it is if you did not receive notice, the 60-day time limit doesn't kick in. It's the developer's responsibility to send to the school, the town, and the county, the taxing entities, this notice. So if the notice wasn't sent to the county, the 60 days doesn't kick in from what I understand. But the town does receive those, and I believe the IDA receives them because they're usually the facilitating agency.
Lexi, help us out again.
So I'm just trying to clarify for going forward, for the county to be able to be involved in these projects and be able to give an answer. I don't know. Have they come in? I guess that's my question. If they're coming into the county, who are they coming into? Is it the county administrator's office? They don't come to my office, so I don't know whose office these would be guided to. And so I would think that the county would want to question, because I would think that the county would want to give an answer from the county attorney's office. That's how this particular whole thing started, and why we're really on to talking about this was because this one company did actually send a letter to the county administrator's office. And then I got involved to get it to the county attorney's office. And then that's why we decided to bring it forward to the committees. But if the county's not going to have a say, I just want you all to know that none of these other projects that have happened, as far as I know, the county has had a say. Maybe they did, but if they did, I don't know if any of that was ever discussed with any of these committees prior. I've never heard of any of them. So that's something that the county, somebody here might want to look at. I don't know. I don't want to point fingers at anybody or whose responsibility that becomes. But how does the county actually play a role in these if we don't know about them?
Thank you, Lexi. And I think I'm even more confused than when I started this afternoon. So what I'd like to propose, and our county attorney is not against trying to help us understand this, is develop some type of consensus that we can fully understand what the current laws say, how it applies to us, and what our options are. So to understand how this process happens, I think would be beneficial for us from that standpoint. Forget the economics or the policy standpoint in terms of whether it's in, I think everyone understands that it's there's a benefit from not from economy, but for a just the world standpoint, right? We need to be more effective with what we do. I don't know how to put a number on that, but I think if we understand all these different moving pieces, I think it'd be helpful for this committee to make a decision moving forward. So if that's okay with the committee, I may ask that we just push this off for another month. What do you think? Seeing no
Well,
Supervisor
Good
Leggett?
to me.
There is just one more thing. I agree, Mr. Chairman. This doesn't seem any more clear now than when we first started, but in 9B, paragraph 9B, notwithstanding, that should a taxing jurisdiction adopt a law indicating the taxing jurisdiction's ongoing intent to require a contract for payment in lieu of taxes for such systems, that law shall be considered notification to owners or developers that no further action is required on the part of the taxing jurisdiction, providing that such law or resolution remains in effect through that time. Meaning, at this point in time, we can require them to do a pilot, but there's that 60-day notification that's involved. If we institute a law, it's no 60-day notification. It is what it is. We're going to enter into a contract. That's the way I.
Well, that is.
I'm not an attorney. Well, it's not even the IDA at this point. This is within taxing jurisdictions themselves. So, and this is where it even gets more confusing. Why are people coming in front of the IDA for exemptions when the taxing jurisdictions could grant them under the 487. So this is even.
Let's try to get some
crazier.
more clarity on this
Let's
for
do
next
that.
month.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm lost. Liquor, that works for you and your team.
this totally. Or they can come to us.
I don't
Or they can
know.
go to the idea.
It's totally confusing. I mean, so. Let's move on, right? The next item on the agenda is something about our local economy. And I have a couple of ladies here to help us with that. Liza and Lynn. Both Liza, we all know Liza. Many of us know Lynn Stickles from the I'm sorry, it's the Southern Adirondack Child Care Network, and we're not going to talk about supply chains or interest rates or anything like that. We're going to talk about childcare this afternoon a little bit. So, ladies, if you don't mind, could you just kind of give us an update on where we stand with your projects and efforts to help increase our childcare capacity? Liza, you're welcome to join us at the table also. Derek.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you an update. Thanks, Liza. Technology is not my forte, okay? So to just give you a brief and quick update on what's going on in the childcare world, and to also kind of maybe paint a little different picture about paint a picture of what we're doing with the funding that we received to start childcare, family and group family childcare in the area. But a couple of big things happened that really have nothing to do with us, but they had a huge impact on the childcare world. And one is that in June, what's called the market rate increased for childcare providers. And the market rate is the rate that the county can pay to childcare providers for care that is paid for children who are part of the childcare assistance program. So this was huge. It raised those rates a lot, which also has helped encourage more childcare providers to care for children who are part of the childcare assistance program. The other big thing that happened is that prior to August, parents who needed childcare had to be within 200% of the federal poverty level, and August 1st, it went to 300%. And that's huge. We've seen an uptick in some of, we also, and I don't want to dive into the weeds, but we're also the enrollment agency for legally exempt childcare providers. We've seen an uptick in people doing that. We've seen an uptick in parents calling us looking for care. So the rates went from like 58,000 for a family of 4 to 87,000 for a family of 4. Huge, huge jump. Don't quote me specifically on those rates. If anybody really wants to know, please reach out to me separately. I don't have them in front of me. So anyways, that's had a big impact on the childcare community. The other things that I will report on have to do with, the supply chain in childcare, even though we weren't going to talk about supply chain, but we really are, because childcare is supply and demand. But 5 individuals have requested licensing applications to open in-home family or group family, depending on the number of children. And that's happened since July. We're not talking astounding numbers here. This is a slow process, which those of you who've heard me speak before have heard me say that this is not going to happen overnight, that we're going to change it. And it's not, no matter what we do, but we see that as progress. 2 of the 5 people are participating in the startup funding program through Warren County, the ARPA funding that we received. So we're pretty excited about that. One of these 2 will probably be open within the next 30 to 60 days. Again, it's a long process to get open. But she's going to be able to provide care for 6 to 8 children. So we're really, really excited about that. She is taking advantage of literally everything we are offering as part of that program. She's attended the health and safety training for free. Well, not for free, at no cost to her. She is enrolled in the SUNY Adirondack Business Startup course. Again, funding was provided by us through our partnership with the county. And we firmly believe that those things are going to improve her sustainability in business. She's kind of our guinea pig, and she knows it. We've talked about it with her, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to, get some statements from her as to how it's impacted her business, but she's also going to be able to get equipment and supplies and things like that through the project. So we're pretty excited to have one person who's steadily moving through the process. One of the other people is just beginning the process. And she is a testament, I think, also to the importance of this project. She had reached out to our office, requested information on how to get started. We typically start with an email and give them all the links and all of the things that they need. And we followed up with her, which is a piece of this project we have in partnership with the county. And she's like, it's too complicated. I'm not interested. We said, come on in, let's sit down, talk to you. We'll handhold you through it. She's moving forward. She's ready to go. So we consider those real wins in a few months. We followed up with the other people. They're still debating. So that's pretty exciting too. 3 childcare center applications have been requested from New York State. We've been in contact with all 3. Questionable, whether they're going to move forward. That is an even bigger project and much more complicated than opening an in-home. We have in the area, we have 1 childcare center, Building Kids, who's going to open on the Luzerne Road in Queensbury, or who is open on the Luzerne Road in Queensbury. They're licensed to care for 8 infants, 25 toddlers, and 26 preschoolers. Anybody who's free, they have an ARCC ribbon cutting on Monday, October 31st at 11 a.m. They would love the support of the community. We'll be there. We also have a group family childcare program in Warrensburg who's close to opening. She's been in process since May, but once she's open, she'll be able to care for 12 to 14 children. So there is progress, and it's exciting to be able to report it.
Lynn, that's awesome. The funding for this, is that the funding from ARPA?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
Yes, not for the childcare center, that wasn't involved, but yes,
Right.
the other programs that I mentioned.
Well, I was
Absolutely.
trying to keep good notes when you were going through that. Would you mind sending me an email so I can get it out to the rest of the supervisors? And
I'd be happy to, I'd be happy to send an update, even a little clearer than my notes.
Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, thank you. This is really great. It's really been a needed thing, and thank you for both of you for such hard work and getting this program moving forward. How can people that are looking for this service find information so they can go through and, I guess I just became a grandfather 3 weeks ago. So once she comes out of her maternity leave, but they were looking at places, $350 a week. And what's the sense of going to work? Almost. So, but affordable, safe childcare is what we need. But is your agency one that they contact for help and placement too?
Yes, both. They would contact us for information on how to get started. But then the other piece of our service is a referral service.
Okay.
So once someone is licensed by New York State, parents can call us looking for childcare, and we don't make recommendations. It's actually a referral service, and we can help them find childcare. And unfortunately, affordable, safe, quality, they don't coincide in the same statement, unfortunately. I just.
Oh,
wanna be
yeah, I just
realistic.
threw that in there for
I
wishful
know, I
thinking.
Stick about that affordable is a very, very nebulous term in trying to provide quality childcare.
Any other questions from the committee? Other supervisors in the room? Lynn, thank you so much. Liza, do you have an
Thank you.
update for us?
Sure. Thank you, Len. It's always great to see you in person. I just want to add to that around childcare, and then I'll give some workforce updates. So you may recall about a year and a half ago, we applied for the federal community project money, $205,000 to open more home-based providers, and we were allocated that money last spring, but it's been a process to actually receive the money. So there's like a dozen webinars and documents that I'm still working with Saratoga County on, because that's our partner as well, to get that in so we can receive that money. 100,000 of that will go to Saratoga County and 100,000 for Warren County. We're also still in conversation with LDC and EDC about setting up an account, a childcare sustainability account that one of those entities would own, where childcare providers can apply for additional assistance. And that is not just home-based providers, that will also be centers. But this is for when an extenuating circumstance comes up, right? A plumbing issue or something like that. We don't want our childcare providers to shut down because of something they can't afford to do. But we do still need to figure out how centers can operate and stay open, because about 50% of centers fail. And it is because it is very costly to have those spaces and staffing as well, and then, make it feasible for the business owner. The current system isn't set up for a way to support centers in a smaller community to succeed, right? So that's why these funding projects that we've been working on together with Southern Adirondack Child Care Network are for home-based providers. Those are the more successful providers in rural communities. And so we do look with the additional federal money to open up 10 more home-based providers in Warren County and 10 more in Saratoga County. And we know people always cross lines for work or childcare or other services. When that account is set up with LDC or EDC for individuals and businesses to contribute to, we will share that information out so that you can share it with your constituents and business leaders in your communities. We do believe that addressing childcare is not just a public issue, but a private issue as well. And we need to work together because businesses benefit from having sustainable and adequate childcare. So we will keep you posted on that. And many of you watch or attend the LDC meetings as well. But that we're very excited about because we needed somebody to own that account, right? And there will be a committee as well who will review those applications. So we'll keep you posted on that. I think after the midterm elections, I'll also be reaching out for more folks to advocate for education, tuition help, or work study help to encourage more young people to study early childhood development and get some more experience. And they could also be babysitting or nannies, especially during overnight shifts and hours where families are unable to find childcare services. So those kinds of things and your support as you speak to our local and state representatives would be very helpful. So we'll keep you posted on those advocacy efforts as well. Any questions about childcare before I move on to workforce stuff?
I don't want to.
Yeah.
So one who wanted to start up a home-based
Mhm.
childcare service,
Mhm.
how much financial help do they expect? Like 5,000, 10,000, 15,000? Is there like a generic range?
Yep, there is. Do you want to answer that, Lynn?
Currently, with the funding that we have from the county, we're providing close between 2,000 and 2,500 for each family in-home program, which that doesn't even come close to opening one classroom in a childcare center. So we have allowed for some flexibility within it because what we don't want to have happen is somebody who is really, really interested in opening needs a minor renovation to their home. And maybe it's going to cost a little more than 2,500. We want to be able to help them do that. They might lose out on other things. So,
And that's also why the 100,000 for Warren County allows for additional up to 10,000 really for a startup because they may need recess equipment or things like that.
Well, and I know New York State has all kinds of laws.
Yep.
And for you to restructure the building to meet state standards, that's not gonna be inexpensive.
Correct.
Correct. So that's for a childcare center. For an in-home, they don't have to make basic changes. I mean, they have to have a certificate of occupancy. Once in a while, there'll be some type of change that needs to happen that might have to do with a second means of egress or unsafe railings or something like that. But generally, in-home, you don't need to do anything other than have a certificate of occupancy.
Right, well, and I don't fully understand where one blends, where a home
Mhm.
turns into a center. I do see some of these childcare places have fences around them to protect and, you know, keep the kids within a controlled area.
Mhm.
Are those fences expected for home care services too?
Not necessarily. It depends again, if they're on a main road, they might very well be. If they have a body of water next adjacent to the property, then they are going to be needing to have that. The best way, without getting mixed up into the terms that we're using, a childcare center has to be in a commercial building. A family or a group family childcare has to be in a home by New York state law. That's the clearest and simplest way to describe the difference. Does that help? Good.
And that's the other reason that 50% of centers fail, the added costs and regulations. And the amount of money it takes to lease a space, right? So it'd be really great if our community was able to find other, whether it's, you know, churches or previous schools, things like that. But again, they have to meet the state regulations to be a center, an operating center.
It just seems like a major proportion of the cost is, it's just employees. And the state of New York, where we have reasonably rigid rules and regulations, as we should, mandates and requires additional employees. You take the requirements in some of our southern states. I mean, you can have, you know, you take a category in terms of ages, you can have twice, 3 times, 4 times as many children in that category, as opposed to a state like New York or Massachusetts. Just the payroll is a big component for people trying to provide the service.
Correct. Again, we'll go to the advantage of in a family or a group family childcare. A group family childcare, there will be one employee, but in a family, it's the person who lives there. There's also many tax breaks for them, which we go into that with them. So again, it's a more affordable option of providing childcare versus a childcare center. Not to say that childcare centers don't have an incredibly valuable role, because many parents prefer that. They like that larger group setting, and many parents prefer the small setting. So we want to see both in a community, where both can be supported, so that parents have choice, because that's really important.
Thank you.
So moving on to workforce, which was a great segue about staffing. We are still currently around 3% unemployment. That number usually does go up in the winter, but we don't get those numbers until a month or two later. So we will see how the winter goes. I haven't seen you for a couple months. So we did have a successful truck rodeo in September. And that was with the support of our Workforce Development Board, who is now more active in the community. And Stewart's foot the bill for most of that for the truck rodeo and provided the staff. So we had local CDL drivers competing on a course. There was also Touch a Truck on the other side of the parking lot. This was in the SPAC parking lot. And young people with their families got to learn more about trucks and career opportunities. So we had our tables there, and we had several people come to the table and learn more about job centers, as well as about our funding sponsorship for CDL drivers. which we still work very closely with BOCES on that, but BOCES is also short-staffed, so it is taking longer than usual for CDL students to get their training hours in and get that license. So if you know any retired CDL drivers, please let me know or refer them to Michelle Stockwell at BOCES, because we need retired CDL drivers to help get the training hours in with the students. And it can be their own schedule. If you know somebody who's a retired CDL driver and they're only available Thursday afternoons, we'll take it. We need help with getting those CDL licenses and training hours finished. We were very happy with the success of the truck rodeo, and we plan to make that an annual event. We also had a job fair last week, which you may have heard about at Crandall Library. We were very excited to have 31 attendees just for a dozen businesses or so. Even 31 attendees is more than what they've seen in some of the job fairs in Albany. With unemployment this low, we're still trying to pull people in off the sidelines to get back into the workforce. We do hope to continue having more job fairs. Some of them will be customized to certain fields, right? So a healthcare job fair, we want to do a civil service job fair for county and state open jobs. So we'll keep you posted on that. Those plans could change though, if, you know, we do go into a recession or if COVID impacts things in the winter. I've been meeting with a lot of school superintendents, school guidance counselors, and teachers. I'm very excited to see how much career exploration programming is happening, and even down to the elementary school level, but particularly middle school and high school in all of our school districts. And as you know, with ARPA money, I'm hiring a student to careers development specialist who will work more with our school districts and BOCES, labor unions, businesses. We did receive 5 applicants for that. So I'll be working with civil service and HR to get that person started soon. With the 30,000 from ARPA, we also just received our iPads and laptops. So our iPads and laptops are being updated by IT. The iPads have already been rolled out for our youth GED class, which goes up to age 24. And that's been fantastic. So we are addressing the digital divide that we all saw during COVID. The laptops will be used for short-term rentals out of our office. If somebody needs to update a resume and they don't have a computer at home, we will sandwich that rental between 2 appointments. So they're bringing it back. If somebody needs a long-term rental for a class, a training program, or something work-related, they will check them out through Crandall Library. I will have that MOU for this committee to review next month. But we are super excited that the ARPA money has helped us do that. So thank you all for your support. We continue to work very closely with a lot of departments. So we did a training, I co-facilitated a training last week with DPW managers, right? We know we've had recruitment and retention issues there. We're making sure that team building really, and a lot of learning best practices for management helps make sure that we can retain some more of our DPW workers and recruit more workers. I'm working with Catamount Consulting on that, who's already been working with the county on highway safety. So we're super excited about that training. We are now meeting with them twice a month. And then that will taper off long-term if we need to. We are also doing continued work with the probation office. They received a grant, the YRE Connects grant. So my office, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and probation youth who are at risk are getting more career counseling, internships, mentors. So that kicked off this week, and my youth counselor is supporting that. We're also working with the sheriff's department. So we are, I'm co-facilitating a restorative practices training in 2 weeks for any Warren County officers or Glens Falls PD who want to support or learn more about restorative practices. It's just another tool for their toolbox. We still work with DSS a lot. We've had work experience program, and people who have barriers to employment are getting work experience at our local nonprofit partners who have the patience and the time to support them with gaining more skills. So those are my biggest updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions around workforce. We know that our demographic challenges are here long-term. And we need to continue to engage young people and people on the sidelines. So that is my priority with additional help that I'm able to hire in my office.
Liza, any other questions for Liza?
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liza. And Lynn, thank you very much. Supervisor Levy.
Thank you. The restorative practices training that you're doing with the sheriff's office and Glens Falls, this is all part of their community policing plans and such? Is that
It is. It came out of that. We had to wait till, COVID wound down and summer tourism wound down. I do have that flyer if anybody wants to see that, to help recruit more officers to come to that. It's voluntary right now. We want to build the buy-in. It's not mandatory, but hopefully in the future, that restorative practices program can grow. And we're also doing this work for free. And I have partners with that, with Council for Prevention and Catamount Consulting as well. But long-term, we may need to figure out how else we are funding that. Same with our work for DPW. Everybody's doing that work right now for free. But long-term, we may need to figure out other options.
Thank you, Liza, again.
Yep.
Just one other question, Sarah, I'm going to bring you back in. And maybe you don't know, but there's a. Sorry, my time's up here. We have a housing study that was planned, but we couldn't start it until after the final census numbers were in. Have the census numbers been released yet, and are we moving forward?
So I believe the housing study is moving forward. The RFP has been released. So we should be getting some. I actually think I saw one proposal come in on Wayne's desk today. So we still do not have census numbers. There's definitely been a delay. There were a lot of issues with the 2020 census, as I'm sure everybody can remember, happened in the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah. So no, we don't have new census data yet, other than just the basic population data that was released for the part of the redistricting effort. But hopefully we'll get it shortly. I'll definitely keep everybody updated.
For the update. So that's it for the agenda today. Anyone else have any questions? Privilege of the floor. Any other comments? Mr. Lehman, I'm not sure if we're still asking him whether there's any comments on YouTube or not, but I'll do that.
Hi, no, we're not doing the online comments anymore, but there aren't any anyway, so.
Don, I appreciate that. I'll write
No
that
problem. Okay.
Motion to adjourn. Supervisor Stroud and Supervisor David.